Hello, everyone. This is Sean from 8-Bit Shinobi, and we got legendary comic creator Geoff Isherwood with us today.
Yeah, Jeff here, and how you doing, folks?
So, why don't you tell me a bit what got you into comic books and drawing professionally?
Well, I was still a child at the time and enjoyed drawing quite a bit, and I wanted to find a career where I could be an artist of some sort. And so I was around 10 years old, and I was reading comics and thought, hey, why don't I do this? I enjoyed the storytelling aspect. The superheroes were colorful, they were exciting, and Stanley's dialogue and the nicknames all the artists had and all of that was looked like a lot of fun, and it looked like
Yeah.
these are the kind of people you'd like to hang around with and to work with and all that. And then and plus I had out of who knows where it came from, but just an interest in figure drawing and learning anatomy and all of that to start with. And then later on, the whole idea of acting, storytelling, all that came to me. So I was kind of dead set on drawing comics. I mean, it just my leisure time outside of my other classwork, everything was pointed in that direction. So I decided young, and I just practiced a fair bit. And I mean, I wasn't as obsessive. I could have been doing. I played sports and I did other stuff too,
Mhm.
but I spent a lot of time learning how to draw. Oops.
So, do you have a favorite character that really spoke to you when you were younger?
Well, it's funny. There were lots of them. I mean, mostly I would say Marvel characters. I think because of the way they were handled in stories were much more individualistic and not so much just a lineup of costumed ciphers. You get a lot of that in DC past when you get past your main heroes there. And so, but I went to Marvel originally because I wanted to work on Conan the Barbarian. And of course, the option or the opportunity to work on Spider-Man was always great. And ultimately, I was offered work on various titles, but and didn't matter really which one. It was always exciting to do. It was always fun to do, and I was always aware of the sort of the tradition of the characters in that way, and
Mhm.
tried to maintain that as well, rather than just entirely reinvent, and make something completely different, which a lot of artists do. But
Mhm.
I was really aware of the background and trying to do that. And of course, Doctor Strange, when the opportunity came up to draw that comic, I jumped at it, or I might in fact asked, "Can I draw Doctor Strange?" And Mike Rockwood said yes. So there we go.
So I noticed on your picture, on your profile picture, you have a picture of you and Benedict Cumberbatch. What was it like meeting him?
Oh, that was excuse me. Yeah, it was 2016, and I was invited to the premiere of the first Doctor Strange. Okay, we'll go. That's you can't say no to that. So and found out I was in this special thanks at the end of the film. That's why they invited me, and amongst a number of others. And I think Steve Englehart, the writer, was the other one who went. Not everybody who was invited went. And there was a party afterwards, of course, after the premiere, and a place called the Magic Castle was a an old home built in 27. That was um, it was a kind of a place for magicians to hang out essentially, and they would have weddings and this, that, and the other. But of course, the magic reference was the perfect place to have an after party. And so there was this. They had inside the building there were setups with magicians and what have you, but outside in the parking lot they had it set up with carpeting and hanging lights and fireplace and all this, and there must have been like 500 people milling around there, and various actors were there as well, Tilda Swinton was holding court, and she had about 40 or 50 people around, all gathered in as she was spinning tales. Over on the side, towards the back, I found Scott Derrickson, the director, and stood, listening to him. Or he was there were some people talking to him, and one woman was going through like the entire movie. I love the part when this happened and this happened and this happened, and he's standing there, kind of like, yeah, I know the story. I made it. finally, we're able to. See what, and I was finally able to, say hello and all that, and thank them very much for, bringing me in and having me come over and the whole works, and the fact that we had retold the origin of Doctor Strange in issue 45 of the series when I was doing it. And he had seen like the car crashes in particular, where Doctor Strange breaks his hands, and that was they had taken that scene, and also some of the relationship stuff that came up with the nurse, because that's explored a little bit, and also the cloak itself at one point, the way it comes to life, which I thought was fantastic. There was a scene that when I wrote a few issues later, I wrote a few issues of Doctor Strange as well, and there was one scene where he's got Earthona has got him in a bear hug, and the cloak spins the guy around like a tornado, right? And he flings him off, right? And so that's where, and I wonder if, I don't know, but I think that might have been part of the idea of him realizing, hey, let's bring this thing to life, give it a life, give it a mind of its own in a way. And that's been great ever since. So finally, ultimately, yes, I'm getting to it. We finally found Benedict and his wife way in the back, trying to hide in the corner. And a couple of people were talking to him, and he had a plate of food. It was 10:30 at night, and hadn't eaten anything since breakfast, I don't think. But he was about to sit down, and my wife, is with me, and she says, "Oh, where is Benedict?" And I said, "Oh, he's over there, like 20 feet away." "Oh, there he is." So she said, "You think we should talk to him?" And I said, "It's now or never." Let's go, right? So we went over, and I said, "Hi, I'm Geoff Isherwood, artist. One of the artists drew the comic." And he goes, "Oh, that's awesome. How wonderful to meet you," sort of thing. And so Amanda going, "He's going all fanboy over Geoff. It doesn't make sense." And then he says to me, "How was the film? Did you like it?" And I said, "Oh, we loved it. It was fantastic." He said, "You're a perfect Doctor Strange." And it's true. It's how I feel about it. He's the ideal actor to play the role. So, we had a nice little chat for a couple minutes. Amanda took the picture. We took a picture, and then I said, "Wait a minute, did the Doctor Strange thing?" And he looked over at me, and he quickly put his hand up. And so that's, it's like, yeah, I'm the director. He's the actor. What are you going to do? Right. Yeah. So we talked like a couple of minutes, and then said, "Well, let you get back and eat your supper. You must be hungry." And he says, "Yes, thank you very much." And then we toddled off, and that was it. So he's my friend Ben now, after talking to him for 2 minutes. But no, part of the thing is I have also worked in film for the last 20 years. So I have met a number of actors here and there. And so, I understand the kind of the role and the job and how the film business works to a fair extent by now too. So, and of course, you meet actors at conventions. That's another thing, as celebrity guests. But so I've met a number that way, of course, and also, but at film jobs, I've been working at, I've met some. So, you just try to normalize the situation anyway, and you're talking as one professional to another, and that, so you don't want to just devolve into some gelid mass going and falling over somebody. It's just it's certainly not necessary, but it was great. Oh, here he is there. It's my friend Ben.
So, do you have any creators that when you met them that you kind of fanboyed over when you were starting out?
Well, I think when John Buscema would be the first one I met that was a show in Montreal, and he was at the show, and I stood there for a good 2 hours watching him sketch, and draw. And to this day, when I started drawing, it's very much in the same gestural quick sketch method that he used. There's that feel to it, and I find mainly because I just think how he approached drawing and how I approach it is kind of a similar way. And there are many artists who follow more the Kirby model, right? And they construct things that way. And then there's which was highly stylized in his way, and very strong and blocky. And then there's Buscema, for example, who followed many others from Hal Foster and Alex Raymond all the way up, but in a kind of naturalistic gestural way, and that's how I see things for drawing. So yeah, that was but I haven't really fawned over anybody in that way, but it's been great to. So yeah, he would be one. When I first went to Marvel, we were coming home from vacation and stopped in the city when I was 16, and I met Dave Cockrum and Marie Severin. I was able to get up to the office, and the receptionist, "Oh, you young artist here, let me take you to see a couple of people." I mean, nowadays it's like Fort Knox to get into these places, right? But in those days, it was great. You just go in and say, "I got some drawings here. Come with me. You can meet the folks." So it was very much like a family business then, in that sense, and that just reinforced my feeling of I want to work here.
Mhm. So, do you have any moments at Comic-Con that you could think of that people have made you sign or something along those lines?
Oh, specifics. Well, I think one thing that has happened is that people have bought either commissions or original art for me online, right? And then
Mhm.
later on, I will have gone to a convention in there, and I've met them in person, which is always great. It's great to make
Mhm.
that real life connection. And there are a few collectors who we've made personal friends with specifically, which sort of now goes way beyond just the a fan artist kind of relationship. Some friends I kind of even forget the fact that we were so and so had gotten a commission from me way back when. And that's the thing about Ottawa and also in Montreal when I'm
Mhm.
going doing conventions, and done so many in each city now that I mean at least half the people that come to the table I know already. And they
Yeah.
know me, like they've met me before, and remember last time I got such and such from you, can you do this other one now? So I that's what's kind of fun. Conventions is like twofold. If you go back to the same ones, you often get repeat business from people you've met before, and you get to
Mhm.
catch up with them a little bit. But new cities, again, it's new people you've never met, and so they have an opportunity to meet artists they haven't seen before, and I'm one of those that comes up on a regular basis too. So um, yeah, it's more that kind of thing. Not that
Mhm.
anybody's brought up something really bizarre for me to sign, necessarily. I mean, sometimes some people have these monster posters, with 100 signatures on it, your autographs already. And then, of course, you just want to look at it and see who signed it already.
Yeah.
That kind of thing is really fun. Or Captain America's shield, and some people have that signed all over the place. Things like that.
Cool. Is there any favorite place that you've got to be able to visit on your Comic-Con circuits?
Huh. Well, favorite, I don't know. I would say, well, a few different ones. New York City, the New York Comic Con is just it was a complete madhouse. This is like 10 years ago now, but that one was incredible. A couple of places I really have liked is Charlotte, North Carolina, and Heroes
Mhm.
Con, simply because not, I mean, the city's very nice, but the fact that they're like, and that one in Baltimore, I get like 120 different artists, 200 artists at these shows. It's incredible. So it's, anybody you haven't met even as a professional and you want to run into and you'd like to go say hi to or something, they tend to be there. So that's good. And the other thing about conventions for us is just being able to catch up with other artists. You might not have seen them, especially with COVID, seen them for 2 or 3 years, and you know, after the show, you might be able to sit down and have a chat with them, or before the show at breakfast or something. Just whoever's around. One place I have been over to France for a couple of shows, and Spain, but London, England was great. That was a lot of fun. I met some of the English artists who some I knew already, but some I hadn't, and just going to London was tremendous. So that was great. In U.S. Also, well, we've been down to Tampa a couple of times. It's nice down there, weather-wise, of course, and I'm looking forward to. There are many places I have yet to go, but maybe next year I'm hoping to get to some new places as well, some new cities. So we'll see what happens there. I don't have that much control over it. I kind of wait to see who comes to me.
Hmm. So, do you have any projects that you're working on that you want to kind of highlight?
Yeah, right now I'm working on a graphic novel called Toby's War with the writer Keith Davidson. Now he has moved outside of Ottawa, but he's from Ottawa here and was living here up until recently. And so I think he's in Perth. And so he approached me a few years ago with what was originally for him a screenplay, and he thought, well, let's make it a comic because then it could actually happen. So we've been, I read the story and turned out it was quite good. Again, a lot of stories you say, well, it's similar to such and such when you think in terms of plot, but I look at character first, and then situations that happen with the characters and the emotional impact you can get from that. So that was handled very well. So right now it's going to be about 200 pages. It's big. I'm penciling and inking it, and I'm about 3/4 of the way through right now. When I finish inking and it's written in chapters. When I finish inking this present chapter I'm on, I'll be a little past 3/4 of the way through. So the aim is to have it finished later this year, and then finally, and plus we're working with an editor down in the U.S. and his company. So in terms of publishing, I think that we hadn't settled, or Keith hadn't settled on that specifically, but I don't think it's going to be a problem having a publisher for it.
Cool. So, how do you feel that the internet has kind of changed the industry, that a lot of people can get their work out now with crowdsourcing?
Well, there's crowdfunding, of course, which
Mhm.
can work really well. I think there are a lot of people have learned lessons on how to make sure that does work. My mind is you kind of want to have your project pretty much finished. You don't want
Mhm.
to say, I'm going to do this, and then hope people throw money at you, and then maybe it happens. You can't get away with that at all. You've got to have something that's really well set, and it's difficult also if you aren't really known well to start with. That it can
Mhm.
happen for sure, but I think that can be tricky. So then just the trust factor. Can the person deliver, and is it going to look and read like what we want in terms of comics? There's that. But in terms of just getting yourself known, well, of course you can. Uh, you can get yourself out there and be seen
Mhm.
along with thousands of other artists. Of course, so gaining a following on social media, it's not my strong suit, but it's something that kind of has to be, that has to be worked on. But at the same time, um, to my mind, I consider myself what I'd say a producer of content, right? I do that
Mhm.
first. I'd rather have other people deal with all the social media aspect, because if you start delving into that a lot, that kind of just eats up half your time, and then you're not really producing anything. And if you want to get things done, you do have to, even if it's on your own, you still
Mhm.
need to give yourself deadlines to meet. You have to give yourself those. You might miss by a day or two, but you're not going to miss by a month or two. And then life things happen. other jobs come up. You need to make a living, and it's very,
Mhm.
very difficult to try and work on say a comic book story, or any other kind of creative endeavor, as kind of as a side thing. It's very difficult to manage that. So, um, these days. So, or you can get involved with jumping on board other people's projects, but then, of course, as you know, probably
Mhm.
just getting paid in general, and pay can be very low, and never happens, and all kinds of things can come up, which are real, can really, just say, oh, I just worked 4 months on something, and I've got nothing to show for it. So, just again, that the trust factor of getting into business with other people is can be very difficult. So, it just requires you doing an awful lot ahead of time, and
Mhm.
just in general, just in terms of getting work in industry, as we call it, as where I teach at Algonquin. We that the term is, you want to get your degree and you get a job in industry, which could mean animation or video games or live
Mhm.
action film or children's book illustrations or comics or advertising or whatever. That's industry.
Mhm.
The way to You just have to first, you kind of have to have it in your DNA that you just draw stuff. It's just who you are. It's a part of who you are. It's what you do. That's your thing. And it's not that, well, I have some talent and I like drawing, so maybe I'll do it. You probably won't get very far. It's
Mhm.
just you got to do it anyway. And then you have to find an avenue to be able to make a living at it. That's the difficult part. But many times you can get a first job, but then you also have to be really conscientious, make sure it's done on time, keep the quality level up. Then you can get more, and you can start to build some momentum that way. You have to work. It's what did Orson Welles say? Film production was what, 2% inspiration and 98% perspiration.
Yeah.
It's like that. I mean, to this day, I've been now about 4 decades in the business. I'm still, after supper, I'm still drawing till like 10:30, 11 o'clock at night on various projects. And I have a couple other things, or one other thing right now I'm doing, which I have an NDA. I'm not supposed to say anything about. So that's like a second thing I'm doing,
Mhm.
along with teaching and all that. So, my wife keeps complaining. She's in the house with me. I never see you. And so, well, we do, but I got stuff to do, right? So, and that's the thing. I mean, I've been going for a long time, but everybody has to be patient. You have to keep working
Mhm.
at it. Just keep developing your work. Get good feedback where you can. Try and get feedback from people who are very specific about what you need to do to get better. Not like, well, do it feels good if that drawing it. This part doesn't feel right to me, or something. How it
Mhm.
feels is kind of meaningless. You need very specific. Your head is crooked because that you drew is crooked because structurally you didn't do this and that. The eyes are not at the same perspective level. You're not dealing. You have to understand structure, skeletal structure, muscular structure, expressions, how things work, and then use that in terms of perspective. And then you have to be consistent with the shapes and forms of that face, so you can draw the same one over and over at different angles, blah, 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 and it continues on and on and on. So you have to be aware of how all this works. So while you're drawing, you have, 8 to 10 different aspects of the drawing process popping in your head constantly. It's just, like neurons firing constantly.
Mhm.
And the idea, it's the thought process that matters. It's the mental aspect. It's not the hand. The hand is just, the tip of that's what's drawing, but it's upstairs. It's the understanding of what you need to do, and being patient to learn as much about what you're drawing as possible. Of course, these days it's very easy to copy stuff. But what if you have to
Mhm.
change the angle? You have to know how things are made from the inside out. So you don't need to spend a third of your time hunting for reference material. You should learn how things are put together, how they're constructed, so you don't need the reference. Maybe for some detail here and there, like if you want to draw a certain model car compared to another, yeah, you can go get some reference. But ultimately, you have to know what you're starting with. You have to have a good basis to start, and then you can do it. So that's the thing. It's so many people learn some tricks for rendering surface detail, but you can only hide surface detail tricks on top of bad drawing, and it only gets you so far. As soon as something starts to get complicated, rather than just here's a head picture of my favorite head of my character, that's it. Now
Mhm.
you just have to start creating a story, and you've got 10 people in the scene, and you've got perspective and locations and action and all this. That multiplies your difficulty level by 100 instantly. What are you going to do? Like if you don't have all the chops to manage that, then you have to go back and learn. And that's what I mean. It requires that kind of patience and that kind of just interest in the medium in general, interest in that being your life. I mean, that's where it comes down to, and that's it. That's all I can say. You're either going to want to do this and it's going to be your life, or find something else that you're really great at and dedicate your life to that. You have to find something you enjoy doing, and if it's something creative, that's fantastic, because then you're not looking at outside sources all the time
Mhm.
to stimulate your imagination. If you can create things on your own, great. Like if you're into cars, you learn how to cars are put together. You can be a mechanic. You can fix anything. You can modify. You think about souping up your car, aftermarket products, or you find ways to modify and make your own. That's a creative endeavor on the same level. You're spending your time thinking about how to make something. I think that's a huge part of building your own life and your own self-esteem as well, that you can do stuff and be really good at it, and you can make that a big part of your life. That's a long speech.
Yeah. Well, you answered like 10 of my questions with that one question.
Yeah, I just get going. That's the problem. I get started, but
Oh, that's okay. We got our viewers can learn from that.
yeah, no, I just think everybody needs a creative outlet. There's just so much, and otherwise it becomes down to just so much competition of,
Mhm.
someone's got more TikTok likes than me, and this and that, and for what, and it's like quick stuff that happens in 5 seconds and it's gone, and then it just repeats over and over. I mean, it's good for a quick laugh or something, but
Mhm.
it doesn't really. There's no substance to that, unfortunately. And but too many people just want to go for that. They want that quick buzz. Oh, somebody likes what I'm doing. But if you're serious about getting into this world, you have to realize that like 90% of the work you do, nobody's going to see, especially
Mhm.
if you're doing concept art. You know, people see the concept art paintings, in the books, the art of Star Wars. Well, what you have to realize is a lot of those really fancy finished pieces, they're done after the movie's made, and they're going to come. We're going to make a book now. Can you like flesh out and finish this picture? Not the nuts and bolts of how the spaceship is put together. Like that's what matters to the creative people that are building
Mhm.
3D models and everything. They don't worry about the fancy finished painting. So it's what you see in the end is not necessarily remotely as much as the tip of the iceberg of the creative process and that thought process that you go through and you have to develop.
Great. So, is there any conventions that you want to highlight that you're doing soon?
Well, of course, coming up in a few weeks, in 3 weeks' time, it is the Pop X here in Ottawa at the Nepean Sports Complex. Yes, I think hopefully by then they'll have fixed the intersection at Hunt Club and Woodruff,
Hmm.
because right now, if you're going west on Hunt Club, you're not allowed to turn left and go down. I think because of storm damage and all that.
Oh
I
no.
that should be kind of sorted out by then. But
Hopefully.
that's going to be a great show. Beyond that, I don't have a lot of other shows. I have a 1 day thing in July in Hershey, Pennsylvania, chocolate capital of the U.S. or something. So, I'll go to that one. I have a show down in Dallas in November. And of course, there's going to be Fan Expo in Toronto end of August, I'll be going to. Um, and of course, we have our own Ottawa convention in September, which I'm pretty sure I'm going to be at because, I live about 3 minutes away from the EY Center. So that's an easy one. I could almost walk there. Um,
That's good.
and the Montreal convention in July, that's a bit up in the air. I'm not sure right now I haven't heard something back from them. So that's a maybe. So I can't say that's on. Otherwise, other shows for later this fall hasn't really been determined yet. But of course, with COVID and everything,
Hmm.
I'm not really in too much of a hurry to go charging off to all kinds of places yet. Just let some more time go by. But had a very nice show in Calgary at the end of April. That went really well. So
That's good.
yeah, that was good. Hadn't been there for a few years, so that was all right. No, going to conventions is great. It's just we're still being kind of cautious, right?
Hmm. Is there anything that you want to tell our audience before we wrap this up?
Yeah, well, one thing I will say is that Simon Polska, who's running the Pop X show, he asked me about some other artists. If I knew some others he could invite in. So there are some recent grads from our program at Algonquin that I've asked if they could come over, and they've been doing some good drawing, and they'll have posters and drawing and that sort of thing. So you'll be able to see Journey Molson, she'll be there, and Alice Dowling, who was arguably our best student last year who graduated, and she's been working. She finished, and she's had a good job right away since. So there are that and some other locals, and then Ron Sutton and Janet Hetherington will be there. They're also local here from Ottawa, and they're good friends of ours and really helped us during our blackout period because they didn't lose power. So Ron and Janet, he's much more into the more of the horror mold, but he's also drawing
Hmm.
the Carson of Venus strip weekly for EdgarRiceBurroughs.com for the Burroughs site. So he's been doing that, and I don't know. He's up to like his over his 80th episode with that now. So he's been doing that for quite a while, a year and a half or so. So that's been he's got a regular thing going with that, and that's quite fun. So they'll be great to see, and some other artists will be there. I'm not sure exactly who at the moment, but we'll see how it goes.
Well, thanks for coming on. It's been a great pleasure.
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me on.
No problem. And make sure to check off Geoff's table at PopX.
That's right. Oh, I still got my drawing glove on. I'm in fact been I'm working on this other drawing right now as I speak. So, well, in fact I had to turn my so I work on also drawing my mobile studio thing here.
Oh,
That's
nice.
just so it sticks. So I'm we're working on that. So I turned it off because I got a fan running under it, and I didn't want it to interrupt the microphone. So yeah, I thought I'll give you my attention for a few minutes, and then I'll go back to it.
All right. Well, thanks for coming on, and
Yeah.
hopefully we'll see you again soon. Well, I'll definitely see you at PopX.
Oh yeah. Well, that's going to be fun. I'm really excited that Simon decided to take up the reins and set that show up. That's going to be quite fun. I think it's going to have a pretty good attendance at that too. I certainly hope so. Um,
Well, I'm seeing advertisements on the buses everywhere, so that's got to help.
Oh yeah, I think yeah, word's getting out, and it's a good time because, of course, the Ottawa show used to be a Mother's Day weekend in May, and they've moved it up back to September. So, no, it's a good kind of fills in a nice gap here, and I think certainly going to be affordable for people to go to. That's for
Mhm.
sure, and it's going to be a lot of fun. A lot of local artists too, so that's good.
I also feel like Ottawa has like so many conventions, and they're all very successful, even though there's so many of them out there, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, well, people should remember that Ottawa is also an animation hub in the province. There were like 6 or 7 animation studios that work that have bases here. So there are a lot of animation artists here in the city and in all parts of that business. So it's very good for that. Yeah.
Well, thanks for coming on. I don't want to keep you much longer. You have work to do. Well, thank you very much. And
Yeah.
we'll hope to see you soon. This is 8-Bit Shinobi signing out.
Okay, 8-bit.
Have a great day.
Okay, see ya.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.